Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Hi, this is Brian Carpenter from One Worcester Homes. We're excited to offer the strongest buyer and seller representation throughout Worcester County and all the surrounding areas. Our agents are trained better and will look out for your best interests throughout the entire transaction. To reach out to One Worcester Homes, simply find us on Facebook, type in One Worcester Homes. We look forward to the opportunity to help you and your family in your home buying or selling transaction. And don't forget to join us the fourth Saturday of every month at 7:30 on Handling Change.
The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests, and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
This is the Joe Mangicotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show. You want to know, it's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good morning. Good Sunday morning to you. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm not sure if this snowstorm that came in last night was quite as bad as they were leading us to believe that it was going to be. Good morning, Cam.
Good morning.
What do you think? It doesn't seem like it was terribly awful. I mean,
No,
at
it
one
wasn't.
point it was bad, but I had no problem coming in.
Yeah, this morning it was fine. Most of the roads are pretty plowed.
So, good. Good morning to you. So, most of you are probably, if you have the radio on, you're probably still laying in bed toasty warm and comfortable. But that's okay. That's okay. Thanks for joining us and allowing me to come into your home or your car or your device here on a Sunday morning. You can reach into the studio for two-way talk and conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. We also have a text line operating at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. And that's just like you would text anybody, like you're texting somebody on the phone. You can text us, and we'll get your message in real time. If you don't have a texting device, but you would like to still do that, you can email at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com, and it will appear on the same screen. So that's pretty cool. You can reach out to the show off air. Our business email address for the show is just joemshow@gmail.com, and we do have an office number, which is 508-603-9778 to reach the offices of the Joe Mangicotti Show at Cameo Media. All right. So, like I said, lines are going to be open and available. We don't really have anybody scheduled to come on this morning as a guest, so it's up to you to get to the microphone and tell us what you think about what's going on. The president has responded to the impeachment, all right, with his motions and so forth. So that's going to be happening, and we'll be watching that go on. And their position is, look, and I got to agree with this. This is a way overreacting. First of all, I really don't think, based on the transcript and everything, look, the president didn't do anything wrong. They have been looking for something to hang their hat on to impeach him. Right? I mean, from day one, right? We need to impeach him. Well, why do you need to impeach him? Because he's I don't like him and he's horrible and we need to impeach him. There's no high crime. There's no misdemeanor here. They have simply did not like the results of the 26th election. And when you have Nancy Pelosi saying these things in 10 months, she just said this a couple of days ago, in 10 months, he won't be president one way or the other. Well, what does that mean? What is that threat? What do you mean one way or the other? I mean, when are we going to hold these politicians' feet to the fire and ask them exactly what it is that they mean by this, right? When he came into office, we remember the whole, I mean, they were harassing Sanders, the press secretary, anybody, and you got Maxine Waters out there telling everybody, hey, you see anybody from the Trump administration, attack them. It's okay, right? Kick them out of restaurants, refuse to serve them. It's so ridiculous and so embarrassing for the entire country. So anyway, this is going on. The whole process of the impeachment of President Trump happening this is going to be very interesting next few weeks, because the whole issue has been right about these witnesses. Now, this is an interesting thing because I think I was saying this yesterday. I'm of two minds on this. One is, first of all, House, you had your opportunity. You did what you think, or at least what Nancy Pelosi and that group of ridiculous Democrats did your job, and you impeached them on the lamest articles of impeachment in the history. I mean, we only have, this is only the third impeachment, but considering a possible fourth impeachment with Nixon, the lamest possible impeachment articles that ever existed. And as far as I'm concerned, when President Trump was talking to Zelensky, he never mentioned, it had nothing to do with the 2020 election. He asked them to look into what did go on in 2016, because there is just mounting evidence, and it's clear as a bell that there was interference, and even by some of the Ukrainian officials admitting that, that we did try to interfere, but for the benefit of Hillary. And he said, what happened there? Meanwhile, they're holding their hand out for billions of dollars from the United States, and the President of the United States has every right to ask what went on in 2016. And honestly, I don't think that President Trump for a moment considered Joe Biden a threat in 2020. I really think that he didn't even think he was going to make it to the nominee. So it had nothing to do with that. And just because you happen to be running for president does not exempt you from your crooked, illegal behavior and your setting up your ne'er-do-well son with this cushy job on a board of directors using so that he can employ your name as vice president. And then you got Joe Biden on video talking about how he shook down another government, how he shook them down before. And he wanted a prosecutor who was looking into the company that his son was a pawn in. He wanted him fired. So you have the vice president of the United States actually specifically targeting someone who could end up blowing the whistle on his son. And the media is crickets, sound the crickets, right? Nothing. Absolutely ridiculous on tape doing that. So the other mindset that I have with this is, you know what, this could be an opportunity for the president to then call witnesses such as the Bidens, both Joe and Whereas, as he renamed Hunter Biden as Where's Biden, and all of the people connected to this. I'd love to see that happen, all right? It's just when you start talking about this whole issue with the impeachment, it's beyond ridiculous. There are a lot of other things in the headlines that we need to mention, but let's go to the phones. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Good morning, Mark. Good morning. You're up bright and early, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, bright and early every morning. It's an old man thing,
All right.
Go to bed early, get up early. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess when I get up early, obviously I get up early for this, but when you get up early, I feel like I accomplish more in the day because by 9 o'clock in the morning, I just feel like I've done so much. It just seems like I'm more productive when I'm up early. I like it.
What time are you going to get up to do this show?
Well, I get up around 3:30, 3:40. Just because I like to wake up a little bit. I don't want to roll out of bed and just kind of come on and turn on a microphone.
Like being on a graveyard shift.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, kind of. But over the years working in radio, Mark, I mean, I've done the morning show. Where you're going to be ready to do 4 hours at 5 in the morning. So that's you by 9 o'clock in the morning, you've done 4 hours on the air. You gigged all morning. And you feel like you did a whole day, and it's 10 o'clock and you're ready for a nap type of thing. But I like it. I don't mind getting up early.
It was good to hear Mike on
yeah, wasn't that great? I mean, usually I like to have him on the very last show of the year, in honor of the fact that the last show he did as the host of this was the end of December in 2017. So I like to have him on, but he was traveling. I mean, this guy, since he left doing this, I mean, yeah, he's retired. He sold his business and so forth, but man, he's probably more busy now than he was 3 years ago. Good for him.
Was he living in Florida?
No, he still has the houses in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Florida, but he was down in Florida during the holidays, but I never know where he really is. He's just all over the place. He still has property and so forth that he has to maintain and look after up here. So Mike's one of those guys, I think, that will just work until the day he's done.
Yeah, like the guy that used to own the Commerce Bank. What was his name? Duddy Massage?
Duddy, yeah. Duddy did that. Duddy would go to the bank every day right up until the end.
Yeah, he worked pretty much to the day he died.
Yeah.
And anyways, with this thing with Hunter Biden.
Yes, where is?
I mean, yeah, either one, Ken Starr or Alan Dershowitz, all they got to do is subpoena Hunter Biden, and they blow the lid off of everything. Joe Biden is at the Council of Foreign Relations on a hot mic, bragging about how he shook down the Ukrainian government.
Right.
He says right on the hot mic, he says, call the dogs off of my kid, or you don't get the 1.5 billion. And then he says, son of a b.
He was fired.
Ha, 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 they did it. I mean, that's quid pro quo right there.
Mm-hmm.
It blows the lid on everything. Now, trying to get him to appear on the subpoena, well, I mean, if he doesn't appear, if they subpoena Hunter Biden and he doesn't show up, he's in contempt, right?
Yeah, absolute contempt of Congress.
Yeah, that's the end of that story. Okay, have a good one.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Absolutely. Mark makes a good point. And that's why I'm saying I'm of the two minds when it comes to this. And in one, I'm like, look, if you wanted these witnesses, then you should have called them in the House. The whole debacle that we watched when they did the impeachment hearing in the House was a joke and was embarrassing for this country. First of all, if you remember, they put into place those Rule 660s before this, so specific rules for this. They did it in secret for the most part in the secured skiff in the basement. And then if you did watch it, every time one of the Republican members of Congress started down a line of questioning, Adam Shifty Schiff would end it. And they just, it was a kangaroo court. And this is the point, people. The bigger picture in this is what they are doing to the Constitution and to the norms. And it should be scaring the bejesus out of you that if they can come after somebody like Donald Trump, who prior to becoming president was a prominent citizen, a billionaire, high profile, and they can do this to him, and then they can do what they did to him as a presidential candidate, and then as the president, it should be scaring you, because if somebody in the government ever decides to turn their attention onto you as a little old normal citizen without billions of dollars behind you and all kinds of connections and high profile, what chance do you stand? And in the bigger picture of this, we have got to see some people start to pay for the crimes that we know have been committed. From the spying on Donald Trump and doctoring documents to the FISA court, to the intimidation of journalists and spying on everyday citizens, lying under oath. And now look at James Comey, right? He's back in the news because, and this guy has never gotten, as far as I'm concerned, gotten what he should have coming to him, because he leaked. I mean, he admitted to it on the trial that he gave documents to his old law professor so that he could leak them. So evidence continues to pile up that top Obama officials knew that infamous Steele dossier was fabricated. And then as they got the FISA court to approve it to spy on Trump's campaign, and now this newly released email from the DOJ Inspector General on the whole FISA abuse thing has been revealed that James Comey pushed the dossier and the salacious content about the whole peeing in the prostitute thing in the hotel in Russia, knowing it was all a lie and then pushing it through. The dossier which disgraced FBI former director. And he tried to blackmail the incoming president, with which was what was leaked on CNN and BuzzFeed, and it served as the foundation for the coup against Trump, fueled Years of propaganda. And of course, we know that ended up being the Mueller witch hunt. So in these damning emails to Obama's intelligence chief, James Clapper, that was buried with with IG Michael Hurwitz's report, Comey admits that the dossier had been verified but insisted that it be used anyway. So it wasn't verified, it was totally fabricated, but he insisted that it used anyway. Then Breitbart News delivered the smoking bombshell that underscored the dishonesty of the plotters that comes on the eve of the culmination of years of work to reverse the 26th election with the impeachment trial set to begin again in the Senate. So this has not adequately been addressed. Somebody needs to have an orange jumpsuit suit fitted for them. I'm sorry, but they do. Don't forget, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. You can text us at 617-297-8388. Text line is up and running, and I'm checking it now. Let's go to the phones. Good morning, Lee in Waltham. Are you a early Sunday morning guy anyway?
Well, I am now. I have to shovel.
Oh, do you? Okay.
So,
yeah.
But I'm usually up early during the week. No, I just want to say that, if they're talking about orange jumpsuits, I'm going to invest in them because we have so many people that have
You'd like to have
jail.
that vendor contract, right, for the federal
Yes,
prisons?
I would.
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
I wouldn't mind it
I'll
either.
tell you something. On my free time, I would deliver them to the people that were going to jail, and I would be very happy to go all over the country doing it if we can clean this mess up. But we can't. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell, believe it or not, I saw this on TV, and I don't know if it was on Fox News or another station, but they actually had among the 6 people who were considered to be, anti-Trump and all that stuff in this thing, and Mitch McConnell's picture was on that. And I've been saying this for a long time, that Mitch McConnell is part of this deal, especially with his wife, Elaine Chao, because they were the ones that were instrumenting all of the trade things with China, and she's a Taiwan native anyways with a Chinese background. So this is the problem. You see, nobody is going to jail. And it's like you said, when people start to go to jail, Barack Obama should have been in jail long ago. So shouldn't have been John Kerry. He should have been in jail for
the Logan Act, first of all, right? I mean,
yes.
Here he is. I got news for you there, Gigolo. You're not an official. You're not the Secretary of State. You're not even a senator, and you cannot go to foreign entities and speak on behalf of the United States. And worse, on top of it, to literally tell them to ignore the sitting president. That just he'll be out of there in enough time, and don't. In other words, advise them to go against American policy and to do things against the United States of America. So you've gone from just the Logan Act to, as far as I'm concerned, treasonous behavior.
Absolutely. Look at the people who are in the government who are making the laws are the most treasonous of them all. Let's face it, because they're not following the law. And again, my point is, I am not, and I'm a broken record. Until I see these people go to jail, okay, we're not going to get anywhere. They've got to go to jail, all right? We still don't even know what happened in Las Vegas, and it's another cover-up. And the reason it's a cover-up because it reminds me of the JFK cover-up. It reminds me, of the other cover-ups they had with the Alpha 66, and I go back all the way to Eisenhower when he said, beware of the military-industrial complex, because, look at, these politicians are in it with Wall Street. This is where the money's coming from. They don't want to work for a measly $174,000 a year that we give them. They've got other things to do, and this is what the problem is. Elaine Chao, okay, and Speaker of the House there, he made $12 million because of the Chinese trade. No wonder why they were against the trade. They're making money
Yeah.
off it. Politicians, not American people.
No, I know.
Politicians.
And this is the thing, Lee, that if you start to look into this, and Glenn Beck does a good job at digging in and connecting the dots. So anybody, if you really want to see the background, go check that out. Because I got to tell you, the new way here for these politicians, back in the old days, right, you used to have a bagman that would deliver some cash to you. But now what they do is they use their positions and then they put their children into these boards in Ukraine and China, Russia. They put them in there, and and they're on for a couple $1,000,000 a year. Or in another case, in Hunter Biden, he goes to China, flies there on Air Force Two with his father, and a guy that has, admittedly, he has his issues. Now, I'm not jumping on the guy because he has a drug problem and all that. But come on, he's a ne'er-do-well and far from a brilliant money manager. In China, businesses give him $1.5 billion of assets to manage in this brand new money management company, which you've got, you can say, really? What's your experience exactly in managing this? What do you think that's for? Right? Then Donald Trump Jr. says, look, we know, and I get this, we know most of the money managers in New York and Manhattan. Of course, you don't think that every money manager in Manhattan has been after the Trump account forever. And so they know all these people, and they've been trying to get Chinese money like that for decades. And like Donald Trump Jr. says, is nobody just walks into China and walks out with $1.5 billion to put under management. That was because now this guy, his firm will make, say, 2 to 3%, right, for money managing that conservatively. That's not a bad paycheck. So that's just, these are just very gray areas that are borderline illegal to do. But as soon as you add the fact that the influence is the commodity here, Lee, and he even admitted, Hunter Biden admitted in that interview that he said, yeah, I'm sure I got that because of my name. I know that.
See,
I mean, please, people.
But see, this is what it is. It's entitlement. They feel that they run the whole show now because of they are in the position. Glenn Beck was thrown off of Fox News when he exposed the Federal Reserve. Remember when I told you about the Federal Reserve and where they were coming from? They took him off, the show that was on Fox, and now he's got his own little podcast, his own radio station and stuff.
Well,
but he dealt with it, and he was slapped down long ago, and he's been proven to be right, just like
time and time again.
Yes, but because it's just so obvious. But no one that is in the power structure is not going to give it up. They're just not going to, unless there are definite consequences. And what I always say again is you've got to put them in jail. They've got to go to jail for what they've done. I mean, Seth Rich was just another person, but think of all the people in Las Vegas that were killed. What about their families? What about them? They tell us right to our face, we're not important.
Mm-hmm.
We're just little.
And just in case somebody,
hey
Lee, just in case somebody is listening and they didn't catch that, Seth Rich actually worked at the DNC, and he was supposedly one morning he was going to go to kind of expose what he knew as to the shenanigans going on, but he instead was pretty much executed at about 5:20 in the morning on the street, wallet intact, watch still on him. It wasn't a robbery. It was just a couple of shots to the head. 5 o'clock in the morning on the day that he was headed in to reveal what he had discovered and what he came to find out going on.
Well, look at Hillary Clinton. Okay, Hillary Clinton is the same way. She actually ended up right when she was in the war with Libya. She wanted that war with Libya. Okay, so that she could use that as a thing for her when she ran for president at that time. She was going to be running for president to get her elected to show her that. And it didn't matter what turned into Gaddafi or Libya or any of these people. It's only power that they go for. And to me, it should be scary.
Yeah.
It should be scary. And the only thing that I said before, this is a cultural thing, and I mentioned this yesterday, okay, that the president signed that thing for prayer back in school. This is just the very first step. He's got to do more, with society. But if he doesn't send these people to jail, and Hillary
I agree.
has to be one that does.
I got to agree because she, we were told straight from Comey that they altered the verbiage that they used in the report to lessen the fact if you and I destroyed 30,000 emails under subpoena and then our devices, there's no way that we wouldn't be answering for that in front of a judge. But it's 30 minutes after the hour, Lee. I got to take a break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show, 508-871-7000, folks. Join the conversation. Be back in a moment. Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. Stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury. And on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake, Shrewsbury.
This is Wes Oliver with Prestige Home Mortgage from Handling Change. I can help you with all of your residential mortgage needs, from a purchase to a refinance or even an estate buyout situation in the event of a family death. You can call or text me at 508-332-4171 or on the web at wesoliverteam.com.
Good morning and welcome to Handling Change from the Cantiani Insurance Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and Brian Carpenter of One Worcester Homes joins us this week. The purchase and sale of your home or investment property could be one of the largest challenges you have, and Brian can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Joe.
Hey, I wanted to jump right into something. We talk about buying and selling, listing a property, the things to look for, and you are always telling us about your people and what you do that's different than anyone else. And it got me thinking about a career in real estate. What is it like to have a career in real estate, and how long after you become a realtor, or I should say more accurately, an agent, right, before you can expect your first paycheck?
Just watch HGTV. They'll tell you how easy it is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Flipping too.
Yeah, so becoming a real estate agent is a fairly regulated process. It's one of the things you do need a license from the state. So the first thing you need to do is get your education. Massachusetts has a 40-hour mandatory class before you can even go and take the test. You can get that at a few different places. Obviously, One Worcester Homes has started one of those courses. It's One Worcester Homes Real Estate Academy on Facebook. There are some other places that actually offer online classes as well, so some people can take those classes right from their bed or sometimes from their job. But there are online classes available. Once you finish that class, you have to go and take a test that's very well regulated by the state, just as you would if you were an electrician or a plumber or a lot of other industries that are state regulated and state licensed.
Well, this test, I assume, deals a lot with maybe the law involved here. It deals with maybe math, for that matter. But I don't think they can really test you on how well you can sell a house or deal with people.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the things that One Worcester Homes agents do well. We're really not trying to sell that house. We're out to protect the client. After you pass that test, that brings you to the next major milestone in a real estate career, is choosing where to hang your license or choosing where to work. There's a lot of different places out there, and as soon as you pass your test, you're going to start getting mail and email and text messages. People are going to be recruiting you. Just be aware, this is not a job interview for you. This is a job interview for that brokerage. What can they offer you for your career, and what can they do differently than other places?
Interesting point is that you should be looking at it as what can they offer and what tools do they have for me, opposed to what can I bring to the table for them?
Absolutely. A lot of agents will sign with the first brokerage they talk to. More often, they'll even sign with the brokerage who they took their course through or wherever the courses were located. They just don't realize that you should be shopping for your brokerage. And, usually 1.5 to 2 years in, new agents will start to figure out that there could be different and better options out there that might fit them and their personality better. So it's definitely an industry where people do move, 2 to 3 years into their career, they tend to find their forever home.
So if you become a real estate agent, what are the things you want to look for in the brokerage firm where you're going to hang your license?
So there's a lot of different things, but the one word that really comes to mind is support. Do you have someone that will answer the phone when you call? Do you have someone that will show you how to do paperwork correctly? Do you have someone that will help provide you some leads or a jump start to your career? It's not uncommon for an agent to go 3, 6, 12 months without closing a deal, which obviously isn't good financially, but it takes time to learn the things that you need to do.
What is the average time to your first deal? Because you don't get paid till that first deal closes, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about real estate that a lot of people don't understand is we don't get paid until the completion of the sale. And that means you have your keys and you're moving into the house, or you've given away your keys and you're driving away in the moving truck if you're selling. So we put all of our work and all of our energy, our marketing dollars, we put all of that out there in advance to be paid later on when the property does close. If you're really putting your effort in and working as a full-time agent, 30 to 45 days when you start, you should put your first property under agreement, and about 45 days later you're going to get paid. So you should be about 3 to 4 months from when you start making an effort in real estate until you see some of the fruits of those labors.
Well, that's a substantial investment in both your time and, of course, money, because you have no income during that time. Not everybody can really jump into real estate full time, full force.
A lot of people absolutely start this as a part-time career. They close a deal or two, maybe they do 3 in their whole first year, and they put that money aside so they have the opportunity to cut back on their hours at the regular job. We have a nurse in our office who cut back from full-time to per diem. Now she works when she needs to instead of all the time. So there's definitely a learning curve, a growing curve, and it takes time to build up your client base and for people to understand that this is a career and not a hobby or something you do for extra money.
I've always been curious, Brian, is there one particular industry or field of employment that you find a lot of people either also do real estate or transition into full-time realtors?
School teachers make amazing real estate agents. They have the time off in the summer when things are really getting busy in real estate. They have a very set schedule, and although they can't exactly answer their phone during those, school hours, from 2 o'clock on or 3 o'clock on, they're available to their clients, they're available on weekends, and that's when real estate happens. So some of our best agents come from the education industry.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you said that One Worcester Homes now offers a real estate academy.
Absolutely. One Worcester Homes Real Estate Academy can take care of the 40 hours of education and get you all set up to take your test.
Last question real quick. Is there any cost to taking the real estate classes in schools across the board or with One Worcester Homes?
Absolutely. The cost for those classes is typically between $350 and $500. One Worcester Homes Real Estate Academy is at the lower end of that because we really want to get people in there and meet as many people as we can. And if we get the best and the brightest to come through our class, we're going to keep them with our brokerage if we can.
All right, Brian. Again, fantastic information, good knowledge for everybody to have. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us for Handling Change from the Cantiani Insurance Studios. Join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life. Visit us at handlingchange.info, and you can find Brian at Facebook at One Worcester Homes or email him at oneworcesterhomes@gmail.com. And of course, you can call Brian at 508-494-8757. For Brian, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back here to second part of Hour 1 of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN, 508-871-7000. One thing I want to mention, because I think that it kind of went very quickly through the news and people missed, but these town halls that these candidates are doing, and they go all over, they're not as organic as they want to make you believe that they are. In other words, they're stacked with the supporters. First of all, for the Democrats, they're all stacked with Democrats, and then if it's Warren doing it or Buttigieg doing it, it's stacked with their people. But just recently in New Hampshire, in Dover, New Hampshire, Warren was doing one of these town hall meetings, and she was heckled, I guess is the way to do it, by a gentleman who turns out was a minister, and he yelled at her and called her a fraud. So here's what he actually said. Cam, want to play that? So this is in Dover, New Hampshire, and Warren took to the stage, and the protesters shouted at Warren, and he moved toward the stage calling her a fraud and shouting.
So good to be here with you.
Michael Kennedy, my grandfather was in World War II. Your side was ISIS, your side was Iran. Why are you siding with terrorists for? Why are you siding with terrorists for? My grandfather died in World War II. You're a fraud.
Now, see, you side with Iran because Soleimani's taken out, and all of a sudden you got the Democratic Party acting as though we did something wrong, and that this guy, I think it was even Warren who said, he's a high-placed official. Well, you know what? So was Hitler, was a high-placed official in a foreign government. I mean, it's ridiculous that their hate for Trump is so deep that they start to side with a POS terrorist like Soleimani. So he's yelling, you're a fraud. She says, hey, it's good to see you. He says, good to see you. I hope you resign, as he was taken out. And he's taken out of it. Now, I would watch these things if they let anybody, just average citizens, go in there and put these politicians on the hot seat and let them be addressed by people who say, hey, you're a fraud. You supported Iran. You did these things and we don't like it. No, they sterilize everything. They stack it with their people. We know that, the questions are all pre-approved, and we certainly saw it in the Hillary Clinton campaign, not only approved, but they're written by her staff, her campaign. And I'm talking about the questions that the reporters on major network TVs ask. They're actually approved. They were approved by the Clinton campaign. And then the questions, as Donna Brazile did, she fed them to Hillary before the debate. And that's another one, Donna Brazile. This woman, I mean, why does Fox have her on? They're paying her a fortune, I'm sure, to contribute on Fox, and her credibility is gone. She got busted as part of the instrument that was fixing a federal election, i.e. the Democratic primary in 2016. And it looks like CNN and other powers to be have decided that Warren's the candidate because you can tell the way they're treating Bernie. 508-871-7000. Good morning, Richard, in New Hampshire. How are you, sir?
Morning, Joe. How you doing today?
Good. Get aggravated when you start looking at these things and the blatant hypocrisy and the double standard.
Hey, Joe, I've been doing this for 39 years now. I don't know what you were doing 39 years ago when I first started this. But the thing that we have to look at here, right? I'm afraid that you and I and everybody else that's listening here, they know that none of these candidates are going to win. I'm thinking about a brokered convention.
Yeah,
and then they're going to throw Hillary in.
I said this a while ago, folks. I said, look, this is probably going to end up being a brokered convention because it's a lot easier to fix it when it's a brokered convention. I think Bernie's going to get screwed over again, honestly. Yeah. Not that I'm a big Bernie supporter. I think he's too out of touch. I think he's too old. And when I say too old, I don't mean just the physical age. There are 75-year-old people who are old 75 and there are young 75. You know what I mean, Richard?
Yeah, I'm
right. You met. There you go. All right. No, but all right. You're a good example, right? You have a conversation with you. You're not an old 73, but I know people who are 73 that I wouldn't trust them with the remote control to the TV. So, you know what I'm saying? There's old and young. Bernie is an old 76 or whatever he is, and and he's just clueless.
But the thing with Bernie is, all right, he is a dyed-in-the-wool communist. Always has.
He honeymooned in Moscow.
Yeah.
Come on, people.
But, I mean, I'm just saying he's a dyed-in-the-wool communist.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're trying to make him out to be a socialist. No. Well, it starts off as a socialist, but you end up as a communist.
No.
But a couple things that, like when Lee brought up, right, that we went into Libya. We didn't go into Libya to overthrow really Gaddafi. I mean, we overthrew him, but he had all kinds of gold and silver there. We went in there and we took his gold and silver. That's what happened. That's what Hillary and them ended up with. They ended up with all the assets that he had, right? And I don't know if you remember this. George Bush, when he was president, the old man, all right, they sold 40 tons of gold to Singapore. I don't know if you remember this now.
No.
The gold went over there, and of course, they had 40 tons of gold, and they decided, well, we're going to test this, right? And they tested it, and lo and behold, Joe, it was tungsten, because tungsten weighs the same as gold. So when we shipped over 40 tons of gold to Singapore, we don't have any gold left. We don't have any. We're broke. This country is totally broke. I've said that a long time ago. We declared bankruptcy back in, I think, on March 9th, 1933. That's when Roosevelt declared bankruptcy, and on the 12th, Congress declared, a bank holiday. So this country still hasn't come back from being broke. We've been broke since 1933. We're just surviving on these Federal Reserve notes that aren't worth anything. Matter
now,
of fact,
for clarification, when you're saying, you're talking about that our gold reserve is not what it was, or what do you mean by we're broke? Because the whole economy is based on a promissory note. A dollar is just a promissory note. And our ability, it's just our ability to trade in goods and services and that kind of thing. I mean, there's no wealth. I mean, if we look at recently, right, I was just looking at the numbers that, $30.9 trillion value now, and we've gone up $6.9 trillion during the Trump administration. And we're about to break on paper, but it's all on paper. Okay, we've been off the gold standard since for what 90 years. We're off the gold standard, so it has nothing. Right. It has to do with America's ability to just function in the economy and produce goods and services. Right. It's just a promissory note. That dollar, that $20 bill, that Benjamin, all that is is representative. You can't
That's right.
take your money,
But the
go to
thing-
the bank and say, give me $20,000 worth of gold. You can go buy $20,000 worth of gold, but
not
we
out-
don't
not out of
we
the
don't
bank.
have the gold to back up every dollar that we ever printed. And we haven't had
But
that for nearly 100 years.
But the thing is, I mean, in 1913, when the Federal Reserve came in, Joe, okay, we switched over from gold and silver. And matter of fact, in the Constitution, it says you can only mint gold coins and silver coins. That was it, all right? And what happened is, when the Federal Reserve came in, they knew that they were going to create all kinds of inflation. And what they did at the same time is they brought in the Internal Revenue Service, all right, to collect, because that's the only way they were going to collect on this. But a dollar bill today, if you stop and think about this, people, it's only worth 2 cents.
Yeah.
2 cents on a dollar. That's it. That's what your money is worth today. You know. But the other thing too, I want to bring up, about the shooting in Vegas.
Yeah.
Because Lee brought that up. And basically, what happened is they have 3 hospitals in Vegas, in the Vegas area. All right. After the shooting, all these people who got shot, guess what? They had to bring them to the hospitals, right? And they have ex-military people who watch all this stuff all the time, and they check into all these shootings and stuff like that. And guess what they found when they called the hospitals? They
Nobody
asked them,
checked in?
and nobody checked in, okay? And over here we had Maggie Hassanine, that's what I call her. I was the first one to call her that on the radio talk shows. She was with the bump stock. Remember the bump stock out of her? Everything was a bump stock. We got to get rid of the bump stock. So I called her office.
That was the whole band. The whole band became out of the Vegas shooting. Yeah.
Yes, bump stock. But anyways, I called her office, Joe, and I told him, I said, look, I said, you better tell her to knock it off, because first of all, what happened in Vegas, that was only for a TV movie. That's what that was all about, Joe. It was a TV movie, and they had hired all these extras here to fall down and make believe they were dead or got shot. That's all it was, Joe. And I told her, I said, if she keeps it up, I said, she's going to, when it all comes out, I said, she's going to look stupid, so you better tell her to stop it, right? So she did. She hasn't brought it up since.
Yeah. But so you're saying that the shooting in Vegas was really a TV set, and all the mainstream media reported it as an actual shooting?
Exactly. It was a false flag because, Joe, what's the thing that when you want to take over a country, what's the first thing you got to get rid of?
Oh, the guns.
The guns. All right.
Absolutely.
And how else are they going to get rid of our guns unless they throw up all these false flags? That's like the one in San Bernardino, those 2 people there. The woman, she weighed 90 pounds. All right, think about this. She weighed 80 pounds. She had an AK-47. I mean, when she's firing an AK-47, guess what would have happened to her? She'd have fell on her butt because that gun would have knocked her over, okay? I mean, this here, I mean, I'm not talking about myself personally. I'm talking about these military colonels. They got lieutenants. They got all kinds of majors and stuff, Joe.
But now,
They go out and they
but the thing
investigate all
about this
stuff.
is, and I totally understand and agree that there are false flags out there and that the government capitalizes, but 58 people were supposedly killed in that Vegas shooting. Where, what about those 58 people?
Where are they? Where did they go? Where did they go? None of them. I mean, a lot of them got wounded. Not all of them died. Not a single person showed up in the 3 hospitals in Vegas. None. And it's not me now that's saying this. I'm talking about colonels and majors and stuff and the ex-military people who investigate all these things, Joe. And they came out and said nobody was wounded and nobody died. I mean, it's, like I said, I'm just repeating what they said because the news media will not, they will not put this out there for you. Their agenda is to take our guns away. They want total socialism / communism here in the United States. And that's what it is. And then the other part with Hillary, why didn't they go after Hillary when she sold 20% of uranium one?
Yeah, well, now they're and this is the first, of course, the left and the media want to say, oh, that was looked into. Don't you love this all the time? Whenever anything, we looked into it, there's nothing there. Joe Biden, his first thing he says, there's nothing there. Everybody looked into it. Well, look, you can't have the Fox, check into the henhouse massacre, right? So don't believe that in the first place it was looked into. But that the media has come out, the Clinton campaign and publicists have come out and said that was investigated, that was looked into, and it was at certain levels looked into and said nothing is there. But I don't trust the investigators who are part of the whole deep state inner problems. That it's just like this whole thing when they talk about, well, nobody's been convicted yet of spying on the president, and spying on Trump. Wait, you're expecting the people who falsified documents, lied to the FISA court, and was part of the whole slow motion coup against Donald Trump to be the people who looked into this and decided that there's nothing there? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you want to turn them into altar boys.
It's ridiculous. So as far as that goes, look, it's not a question that what happened. We know this happened. We know that the Uranium One company, which is Soviet-controlled through Canada, was sold that 20% of the uranium.
That's
now,
strategic material.
And you don't have to dig too deep. Now, the other part of this is, and people may have missed this because, again, it didn't get a lot of attention, the FBI actually had a agent deep undercover in that process because they were looking into a kickback scene going on, a kickback drill going on, which they didn't even know what they were dealing with as far as the whole Uranian thing and the Secretary of State at the time, Hillary Clinton, signing off. What they were looking into is the Soviet companies who were expecting these kickbacks, right? So you have American companies who think, hey, this is great, we're getting these contracts, we're going to make a fortune, and then all of a sudden they get visited by, Boris and whatever, saying, oh, no, the way it works is you are kicking back to us for these contracts and for this business. So that's what the FBI was looking into. So they ended up having a guy deep undercover, and of course that got squashed. They don't want what this guy has to say to get out there.
No.
But then all of a sudden they stumble onto the whole thing that they end up with control of American uranium.
They're protected. Hillary's been protected. Bill has been protected. Yeah. All these, Congress people and senators.
But you know what, Richard, like right? They are protected. They have to, but how long? I mean, I'm saying, look, there's got to be a point that somebody along this process who didn't gain a lot, but who has enough information, and and just like any other investigation, right? What we got to do is you got to get the little fish. You're throwing 20 years in front of them. They turn around and to get a softer or get a skate on it, they're going to tell you what they know, and you keep trading up to get to the real criminal and the masterminds, that kind of thing. That's how it's done. But at some point, there's got to be, the old expression is deathbed confession. At some point, there's got to be somebody who is just doesn't care anymore. They can't be threatened anymore. They're at the point, whether it's this, they are literally at their deathbed, or that they just, they're like they don't even want to go to jail for 18 months or prison 18 months or whatever, that they're going to say, yeah, as long as I'm out, I don't get jail time, here it is. But I say, look, I don't know how much you want to get into this, people, but if you look at the Clintons, right, what is it, like 58 friends of the Clintons have either died by suicide or mysterious deaths. So there comes a point where you go, do I want to look at, we talked to, I think Lee brought it up a little the last hour, Seth Rich. Here's a kid that was young, beginning of his life. It seemed like he stumbled across information he thought was not good. He was literally that morning going to talk about it, go to kind of take a deposition, and he's robbed and killed in the commission of a crime. Wallet isn't touched, the watch is still on him, cell phone's still on, nothing's taken, but he's shot in the head twice at 5:20 in the morning. So people look at that and they wonder, and even even when they look at Epstein, yeah, right.
I'm surprised they didn't call it a suicide.
Right. Well, Vince Foster, remember that one?
Yeah. Well,
right. They called that a suicide.
There's a good one.
But every investigator and forensic medical person said, no, it's next to impossible for him to have committed that self-inflicted wound from the back of the head.
Right.
I mean,
and then not only that, but he was up on the grass on a hill, and they looked at the bottom of his shoes. There was no grass stains on there, but they had carpet stains, and the carpet stains probably came from the White House. Because I don't know if you know the whole story about that, but what happened is the CIA, right? If you have time, the CIA, what they did is they're called the fifth column, and basically what they did is they had a couple people. They found out a way how to enter into a bank through the back door. And what the CIA did is they went to Switzerland, and what they did is they entered into the back door of all the banks over there, and they took all the money from the senators, the congressmen that are all getting paid under the table, and they even took Foss's money. All right, and basically what happened is when he found out that money was gone, he took a plane ride to Switzerland. He found out that all his money was gone, so I guess he was going to start blowing the whistle if they didn't give him back his money. So what they did is they shot him. They had to shoot him. Him and Ron Brown. Remember Ron Brown?
I remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a Democrat, and like I said, he was close to the Clintons too, and they ended up shooting him too because he was going to come out because they took all of his money. The CIA went in and they stripped everybody, and then they had something like 38 senators and congressmen. They all came out at the same time, Joe, and they said, well, we got to go home, and we got to be with our family and our children like that. How many times have you ever heard 38 senators and congressmen resigning all at once? Never. Because the CIA told them either you get out of there, or we're going to expose all of this.
When did we have 38 congressmen resign?
Oh, I think it was about 16 years ago. 16, 17, 18 years ago, Joe. I mean, you can probably look it up.
Yeah.
They all resigned. They all went home to be with the wives and the children.
Okay, so that statistically, that's incredible. That 38.
That's incredible.
Okay, and you're saying that the CIA is it basically told them you need to. Why?
Yeah.
Why do they need to go? If they stole their money.
Yeah. Well, what it was is they were going to expose how much money they all had in the Swiss banks that they had gotten under the table, from deals for this and deals for that. And
you know what I thought was interesting, Rich? Let's go back to Soleimani in this past month and so, right? When the escalation here between the United States and Iran, then the Ayatollah over there, he threatened that if America continued, that he was going to start talking about all of the American politicians that have taken bribes, all the American politicians that they've given money to, or Islamic nations have given money to. That is going to make a lot of people, obviously everybody who took some money, very nervous. This goes back to, I'm sure that Julian Assange, talk about a guy with a target on his back.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm sure he, in all of his hacking and grabbing all of these emails and confidential information, has some information as to who paid what. That was the other threat that came out, and again, it didn't get a lot of play, was when El Chapo was grabbed. There was some talk then about him exposing all of the money that has been donated to campaigns and given to American politicians, because then you have to start to ask yourself, why are so many politicians against the most basic thing for security of this nation, and that is just securing the border? Why are you so against securing the border? I mean,
money.
It's not about being and when somebody accuses me of being against immigrants and this and that, I'm like, you're a simpleton, because if you can't understand the difference between immigrating to the United States and illegally entering the United States, your head should implode by lack of substance. It's very clear. There are certain points of entry to the United States, and we already have mechanisms in place if you're seeking asylum or you're being persecuted, or even if you're LGBTQ. There's a whole asylum task force for that. So whatever your reason is to legitimately come to the United States for your protection, we have those mechanisms in place. There is no reason to illegally enter the country, except that you just want to enter this country. Meanwhile, you got human trafficking, drug trade going on, all of this going on. And then the other part that the media doesn't focus on or really report or doesn't want you to know is that along these paths, and there are established coyote routes, Rich, that come into the southern border from Mexico, from the into the United States. And what does the Border Patrol find? They find prayer beads and carpets and Qurans. So they're clearly that a large number of people have been coming into the country from Muslims who have been coming in through the southern. But we are 59 and a half minutes. I have to take because it's a hard break. So we got news. Richard, thank you for the call. You're welcome to call back in hour 2. But I do have to break here, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. We'll continue with hour 2 of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on the Sunday edition right here from AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Stick with us, folks. We'll be back in a few moments.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock.
Powerful storm. Boy allegedly kills 4. I'm Christopher Cruz. A winter storm that dumped snow and sleet on the plains, the Midwest, and the Northeast over the past 2 days is moving out for most areas now, and a deep chill is beginning to settle in. Tens of millions of people are blanketed by bitter cold, says meteorologist Derek Van Dam.
Yesterday at this time, we were talking about the storm that was wreaking havoc across the Midwest and into the Great Lakes, now starting to exit off the coastline and downwind of Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Huron, and Lake Michigan, even Lake Superior. That's where we have the snow bands that have occurred. Behind the departing storm system, wind chill values in Minneapolis, 15 below.
Stretches of highways in the Dakotas and Wyoming have now been closed. Police say it was a boy who opened fire inside a home in Grantsville, Utah on Friday, killing 3 children and a woman. Grantsville is a town of about 11,000 people west of Salt Lake City. Investigators believe the victims are all related, but they haven't released their identities, and they say they don't yet know the motive for the shooting. Britain's Prince Harry and his wife Meghan will no longer use some of their titles, says correspondent Anna Stewart in London.
The Sussexes will no longer use HRH, His and Her Royal Highness, as a title, as they are no longer working members of the royal family. Now they're stepping back from royal duties, and that includes official military appointments, and they will receive no public funds for those duties anymore either.
To be clear, the two will still have the titles, just not use them, which means they could someday return to the fold. Riot police in Hong Kong have fired tear gas into a crowd of thousands of protesters who packed a public park demanding election reforms today. 17 more people in central China have been diagnosed with a new form of viral pneumonia that's killed 2 people. That brings the total cases of coronavirus to 62 in the city of Wuhan. I'm Christopher Cruz.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 6655 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 6655.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Lavache, you're all set with your mortgage. And I assume you understand what you just signed.
A stack of papers, George?
That's right. And for future, just call this number if you need anything. And, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna need that pen back.
The mortgage process can be confusing. Looking for the right rate, the right term, and most importantly, the right place to get your mortgage. At Clinton Savings Bank, we are committed to getting the mortgage that's right for you. You may even receive up to a $750 credit off your closing costs. Plus, right now, you can lock in the rate from your pre-qualification for 90 days while you look for a home. So what are you waiting for? Definitely not this.
Oh, boy. Hi, Mrs. Lavache. How can I help? You're breaking up. Try again later.
Subject to credit approval. Offer may be withdrawn at any time. For complete details, exclusions, and credit costs and terms, call 888-744-4272. Apply at ClintonSavings.com. NMLS number 422081. Member FDIC. Member DIF. Equal housing lender.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
This is the Joe Mangicotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show. You want to know, it's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks. Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Joe Mangicotti Show on the Sunday edition, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Our text line is open and available at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. Seth Rich was brought up. A correction, I was saying 5. It was Sunday, July 10th of 2016. It was 4:20 in the morning, by the way, not 5:20. My mistake. 4:20 in the morning in Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C. He did die about 1.5 hours after he received the 2 gunshot wounds in the back. So he was murdered by unknown perpetrators for claimed unknown reasons at this point. He was 27 years old, and he worked for the Democratic National Committee. There was a judge, if you remember, the federal judge, he did reject National Public Radio, NPR's bid to dismiss a suit. A Texas investment advisor had a libel suit over the news reports about the conspiracy theory surrounding the death of Seth Rich. So Judge Amos Mazant of the U.S. District Court for Eastern District of Texas, because it happened in D.C., but ended up in a district court in Texas, ruled that the $57 million suit brought on by Ed Potowski makes plausible claims that the network may be liable for defamation of a series of online stories about Potowski, the guy who brought the suit, his role, publicizing assertions that the murdered DNC staffer, Seth Rich, may have been involved in leaking Democratic emails. But that's been reported, and been the crux of that matter is that he supposedly had information regarding the leaking of those emails and who was behind it and what was in them, and that all ended up blowing up. But anyway, I did want to get to something here today that I wanted to bring up, and this has to do with the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, has to do with Muslim Brotherhood in Massachusetts itself. Now, I know it's always dangerous, right, for you to start talking about anything Muslim. For some reason, the whole spectrum of Muslim has become kind of no discussion, hands off, protected class, that we're not allowed to talk about it. We're supposed to just parrot that it's a religion of peace. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. and I'm not sure that you know about this person, but Chrie Berens, now it's P-E-R-E-N-S, Berens. Chrie is an Egyptian female. She's an author, and she is speaking out against the Muslim Brotherhood and the plans of Muslims here in the United States, because she comes from Egypt and she saw this firsthand, and she's sounding the alarm, but she's being silenced wherever possible. But I have reached out to her, and I have talked to her about having her come on, because having someone like Chrie come on who can speak firsthand, and when she tells you something, it's coming with a lot of authority and directly from a person who's lived it and has witnessed it, better than me sharing with you what I find out from her and what I find out from research. She will come on. She hasn't been able to arrange it recently, but we've been chatting. And she did say it was okay for me to share parts of our conversation and what we had to chat about. So we were talking about schedules and all that. But she had gone on to say, as the article you attached, and what I did is I found her article, and her article was has to do with Ilhan Omar, right? Muslims are to begin enforcing their superiority over non-Muslims. This was on March 23rd of this past year that this came out. And what did Omar mean by that? And she writes, first, you need to know a few facts about Islamic doctrine. According to the Islamic doctrine on immigration, a Muslim community in a non-Muslim country must remain separate and distinct. So that whole anything about assimilating into the United States, totally against the charter of the Muslim doctrine. Muslims must form a separate body and keep their own Islamic laws while working towards making the host country comply with Islamic law. So this is the beginning of the article that she wrote. So I reached out to her, connected with her. So she, in our chats back and forth, she says, look, as the article that you attached demonstrates, there is a valid danger that comes with growing number of Muslims gaining positions of power in our government. She goes on to say, I experienced firsthand the strategies of Islamic takeover while living in Egypt. I see the identical strategies being placed in America. Once I realized how Islam takes over a country, I began researching Muslim Brotherhood in America. Massachusetts, like many other states, remember this is her writing this to me in our exchange of emails and chat. Massachusetts and many other states is in big trouble. Mass top universities are fully infiltrated by very powerful Muslim Brotherhood organizations. Elizabeth Warren has strong ties with CAR. Now, CAR is the Committee for Islamic Relations in the United States, all right? So she says that Elizabeth Warren has strong ties with CAR. The Muslim mayor of Cambridge has Brotherhood ties. Governor Baker just submitted a letter of consent to allow more refugees, in quotes, resettlement en masse. And he did, right? If you caught that, we talked about this before, that governors have, under the Trump administration, absolutely have the right to refuse resettlement of Muslim refugees into their state. Charlie Baker did not exercise that option. The mayors of East Hampton, Holyoke, Northampton, and Salem have also given consent to more refugees. These refugees are being brought from countries that do not share the same values and principles that America is based on. Now, we've talked about this time and time again, folks, that the Muslim doctrine and their beliefs are in complete and direct opposition to the Constitution and the oath that you need to take in serving in Congress or any political office. And you cannot serve two masters, people. So either they are very poor Muslims for taking and believing in the oath that they take for offices here, or they're lying about their American oath. All right? So he says, so again, the mayors of East Hampton, Holyoke, Northampton, Salem have also given consent to more refugees. These refugees are being brought from countries that do not share the same values and principles that America is based on. During a period of massive genocide and persecutions of Christians in so many countries, that the, again, quote, refugees coming to Mass will primarily be Muslims who are not being persecuted, but are the ones doing the persecuting. This is what Chrie Berens says. She wrote this to me in our chat. Think about that. So that primarily the Muslims who are coming here under this refugee status are not being persecuted. They are the ones doing the persecuting. The topics and problems that I talk about in my book are only going to worsen in America. Then she goes on to say, I'll have a copy of my book sent to you if you'd like. And I said, please do. So it's on its way. Thank you very much. And she goes on. And then she later says, did you know that Islamic law is being taught at Harvard and at America's top schools? Not as a comparative class to show that Islamic law is fully incompatible with American law and principles, nor as a type of historical perspective, but is to teach students how to apply and comply with Islamic law. Then she went on to say that Anaya Presley, the Mass State Rep, involved with CARs, the Islamic relations objectives for America. Then she says, attached are some info about CAR's system to receive donations. Liz Warren also received small donations via CAR's system. Small weekly repeated donations by the same people end up adding up to millions of dollars. There's some good background info in this article. It includes ties to Hillary Clinton's current PAC. So I have those links, and we will get into those. But this is something that absolutely should not be ignored and needs some attention. And my goal here is that I'm not going to ignore it, and I am going to bring some attention and shine some spotlight onto this. But 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Good morning, Lieutenant Ken.
Morning, Colonel Joe. Lieutenant Ken reporting.
Up early on a Sunday morning, sir.
Well, no, actually, this is late. I got up late, and I didn't pick up the conversation until Richard in the last half hour.
Okay.
So I don't even know what preceded Richard. But it sounds like, A, you don't have guests today, and B, that it's we're exploring all sorts of oddball things. But Richard's good at amazing all the things that
yeah, incredible. Yeah, I think that Richard, I never asked him, but he's 73. I'm assuming that he's retired, and he spends his time reading up and researching on all kinds of topics, because he absolutely tells us stuff and sends me sometimes down paths to look into things that I may not have looked into without him bringing them up. So I always thank him for that.
He hasn't spent his early life actually in the military, other than us in the intelligence.
Yeah.
He has a source from which to build from. So.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, to your point about the no guests today. Yeah, at the first hour, I jumped around a couple of just things that were in the news from the minister who yelled at Elizabeth Warren in Dover, New Hampshire, calling her a fraud and then getting escorted out. To just
that was
different
a week
things.
ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about a week ago, and I meant to do it actually yesterday. Just didn't get to it, but I played the audio of the minister, and he said, "Look, you're a fraud. You're siding with Iran," and my whole point to that is actually the hatred for Trump is so tangible and thick that here we have the president takes out one of the worst. Probably, it could be arguably this guy was worse than al-Baghdadi. And they can't possibly allow him to take any credit for it. They can't allow it to be a good thing. It's as if they're siding with Iran and with this POS terrorist because they couldn't possibly give Trump any credit for this. And I think that's so disgusting. But yeah, we're kind of jumping around. But there were two topics I wanted to get to today. And one is the issue here with the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. I've been saying this for a long time, that the doctrine of the Muslim Brotherhood or just being Muslim is in direct contradiction to the Constitution and the oath that you need to take. So when you have these Muslim members of Congress and mayors and governors and their whole bigger plan here, and this is what I'm getting into because Chrie Berens, really Egyptian woman, expert on this, is telling us, is warning us that I'm telling you, I've seen what their plan is. I know what their plan. They are infiltrating the universities. And now if you look to Minnesota and even into Michigan, they are getting large pockets of population. And their long-term plan is to have enough Muslims in America who then can vote other Muslims into positions of power. Well, at the same time, as she just said in the chat that I just read, that they are their philosophy or their practice is to keep their separate and distinct culture within the United States, and it's their duty to push the agenda here to turn us into following Islamic teachings and Sharia law. That's the goal. That's the plan.
And what better party to infiltrate than the one that's dying?
And afraid to offend.
Right. That's part of their philosophy. And what president was inviting these people into the White House?
Exactly.
We know all those stories, and that's how we end up with Ilhan Omar.
Now, she writes in her book, and she writes in articles, that the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood came to America in 1962, set up a superstructure of organizations, and began infiltrating our universities to promote their agenda.
Absolutely.
The Pakistani branch entered in 1971 and intensified their recruitment phase. They also set up 20 jihad training camps throughout the United States. Now, we know this is true because the FBI recently talked about the number of Islamic jihadist training camps on American soil within the boundaries of our country. But nobody seems to be concerned over this, because if you're concerned over this, it's profiling, and you're a racist, and you're a bigot. The Palestinian branch entered in 1981, and they began media and propaganda campaigns and intensified covert activities on university campuses. And then she goes on to write that the Somali branch arrived in 1996 and intensified the radicalization process to prepare for the end stage of jihad. Now, this is coming from Chrie Berens, who's an Egyptian woman who served in the ministry, and she talks about this. She's warning us. She says Muslim students associations in America have aligned with Antifa, with Black Lives Matter, and other front groups to achieve their goals. I have this on my Facebook page. It'll be on our blog site for you guys to go read herself. But like I said, she's going to eventually come on. She just couldn't make it anytime in the next few weekends, so we've been chatting back and forth. And she has sent me links. She sent me her book. She sent me some links to read into this. And I just shared with you guys the correspondence between her and I over the last week or so.
Joe, has anybody mentioned tomorrow's big event?
Tomorrow's big event, Monday the 20th. Which are you talking about?
Well, we know it's MLK Day.
Yeah. Is that what you're referring to?
We know what's going on in Virginia, right?
Oh, yeah, I did, yes. That is on my list to get to because the Virginia Supreme Court held up Governor Northam's ban on the Second Amendment because he's concerned about violence. Well, maybe maybe those citizens are concerned about violence too. That's why they have the right to carry and protect themselves. So this is right here in front of me on my notes to talk about, because we should be concerned about this. Whether you are a Second Amendment advocate or not, even if you don't believe in guns and you don't think, then don't carry one, right? If you don't like it, don't carry it. But you should always be on the side of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because they're there for a purpose. And the Second Amendment doesn't say that you have to carry a gun or that you have to own a gun. Although one of the old blue laws in Massachusetts, still on the books, says that you have to carry a long-barreled gun to church, by the way. That used to be actually enforced in the old colonies here in Massachusetts. But the Virginia Supreme Court denied the efforts by Gun Owners of America, GOA, and the Virginia Citizens Defense League, the VCDL, to overturn Northam's Lobby Day gun ban. So, quote, Governor Northam has issued an illegal order on Wednesday banning guns on the Capitol grounds, thus preventing law-abiding citizens from carrying firearms at Lobby Day this coming Monday. That comes from the Senior Vice President of GOA, Eric Pratt. Sadly, the Virginia Supreme Court has decided to ignore the U.S. and Virginia constitutions, as well as Virginia law, and uphold Northam's ban. He goes on to say, ironically, this outcome will only further embodiment Second Amendment supporters to be even louder for their rights. Gun owners in the Commonwealth will continue to challenge Governor Northam's unconstitutional gun control measures at every turn. So this is happening tomorrow on MLK Day, and the governor said, I'm banning it. I'm banning guns.
Well, to be specific, what's happening is there's 90-some odd counties in Virginia.
Yeah. Sanctuary.
And all but like less than a handful have become sanctuary counties.
Mm-hmm.
And they are protesting at the state capitol for what the legislature, that's now just barely majority Democrat, is doing. That's quite radical. And I think from what you're describing, the governor is trying to prevent law-abiding
from carrying.
From carrying outside.
Well, he's saying you can't show up at the Capitol and participate in this rally and carry, even though it's public property.
What's considered the Capitol? Like within a mile of it? I mean, that's almost what it sounds. Because I can understand why they would any governing body can restrict within an actual building,
right?
That's but to actually restrict out in the open.
Well, this is why this is why they are protesting this. They're saying and challenged it and said, wait a minute, we have gone through the process of getting a permit to carry. We have a right to carry. Now you're going to arbitrarily decide you can't carry here, you can't carry there. And that's the whole point behind this, is if they get away with this, Ken, they can get away with arbitrarily restricting you to be able to carry anywhere, and eventually you'll be able to carry nowhere but within the confines of your four walls.
And you've heard who's showing up for this event, other than the good guys?
No. Why? Is Antifa or somebody like
Bingo?
Oh, yeah?
Bingo. Antifa's showing up.
Well, see, as far as I'm concerned, if Antifa's showing up, they're showing up, as they always do, with confrontation on their mind. They're showing up to raise some double hockey stick. That's absolutely why they're there. These are people who show up masked, which, by the way, we have throughout the country in certain communities. We have anti-masking laws that say you cannot do that. You can't cover your face and disguise who you are in public roadways, certain public roadways, and so forth.
Would that be enforced in Virginia?
Interesting, right?
In this situation?
Right. Because I mean, remember we had the Baltimore mayor who told ordered the police not to interfere, to let them blow off steam as they Antifa rioted and destroyed people's businesses and private property.
So here's the big question in this: what's going on with the local sheriff in Richmond?
Yeah, that is the question: is how are the local police going to deal with this? Because we have seen sheriffs across the country who refuse to enforce these gun bans because as far as they're concerned, they're unconstitutional. And what's going to happen in Virginia? Because now you have a situation where the Democrats barely, but are in control. So are the police going to put their careers and pensions on the line, or are they going to enforce these unconstitutional laws because they're ordered to do so?
And what about local police versus state police?
Absolutely. And now Virginia, I don't know, and maybe somebody might know this. I don't know if Virginia is a strong sheriff type of thing, because here in Massachusetts, our police agencies are the local police and the state police. In other parts of the country, mostly in the southern states, the sheriff's department is actually a patrolling law enforcement branch, whereas in Massachusetts, our sheriff's department is basically our jail keepers, and they don't really patrol, right? Our sheriffs don't patrol like police do. So I don't know if the sheriff's department is a strong law enforcement branch in Virginia, or if they are like a Massachusetts sheriff's office. I have no idea.
Don hasn't called yet this morning.
Well, actually, Don is waiting to come on. Actually, Cam, can you bring Don into the? Actually, you know what, guys? I got to take a break. It's 7:30.
And I'll listen.
Can you guys? Can you hold on, Don? You guys just hold on. Let's go through the break. Come back on the other side, folks. 508-871-7000. Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. Stick with us. We'll be back in a moment. Good morning and welcome to Handling Change from the Candiani Insurance Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and Wes Oliver of Prestige Home Mortgage joins us this week. The purchase or sale of your home or investment property could be one of the largest investments you have, and Wes can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Wes.
Good morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's our pleasure, of course. For you, thinking about veterans and looking out after veterans, especially with the mortgage front, it's something you do all year long. But what is going on right now for the veterans? You were talking off air a little bit about something you're doing special for them.
So what we're doing is we have a separate branch of the company called Veterans Home Loans, and our goal with that is to really help the local veterans. We just find a lot of the bigger organizations out there that they're definitely not local, don't really take care of the veterans as much as they might think. So we have the ability to have them come meet us in person, sit down face-to-face, go over terms and talk to them. We're offering free appraisals for any veterans, up to $750. So that would be for a single-family home, or if they were purchasing a multifamily home, that would be on us just to give back a little bit to those who've given so much for us.
Let me ask you something. Does everybody do VA loans?
No. So one of the common things that people think is I'll just go to my bank, and the reality is that most banks in the area, they just don't do VA mortgages at all for God knows what reason, but I think they think they're a little bit more complicated, whereas we really are experts with that. And other places who say they do VA loans, and they may have local banks that do them, they might do a couple a year. So their experience level in handling those, because there are a little bit added complexities with those products, but knowing how to handle them, they typically don't handle them as well as somebody who does these things all the time.
Do you find, as the originator of a VA loan, that the veterans that you deal with are a little different kind of clientele? Are they different than your typical person looking for a mortgage when you're dealing with the vets?
I would say they can be, just because it's a fraternity type mentality, whether they were in the Army, Air Force, National Guard, whatever branch of the military that people were in, is there's that trust factor in knowing that, hey, somebody knows how to deal with the veterans. They have a common bond amongst them all.
Why is this so important to you?
It's really important to me. My dad's a Navy vet. He served in Vietnam. I just want to be able to give back to those folks who've given so much for us and our freedoms and those types of things. And I just really feel like it's an underserved community. It's a community of amazing people who, in some instances I mentioned previously, I just feel like they get taken advantage of sometimes, or they can't go talk to somebody. And you hear that with VA hospitals and healthcare, and that's a whole nother topic.
Sure.
But I guess from my side of things in the lending financing world is I want to be able to give back and give some fantastic service to those people because they've given so much to us.
So you're offering more than or better than the other guys out there that do VAs. And are there a lot, though, here in New England? Easy to find a VA mortgage guy?
You can search on the internet, and most of the time you're going to find is some of the bigger, larger national companies that are out there that spend millions of dollars in advertising to target those veterans. And the reality of that is that comes at a cost. It actually comes at a cost to the veteran, because you're spending millions of dollars, whether it's TV advertising, advertising on the Super Bowl or those types of things. That money comes from somewhere, and that money comes in the form of higher costs for that veteran, and higher interest rates for that veteran as well. So
a veteran is definitely getting a better service with your VA mortgage company because, A, they get to see you face to face, right? I mean, they get to come in and see Wes Oliver in your office and talk to you, look you in the eyes and talk to you. And as far as the service provided, where it comes to the fees, are they going to do better with you than they are with these national companies? Because you're saying they're going to pass that expense on.
Exactly. So you look at any large company who's spending that kind of money in advertising, as I said, it comes at a cost. We're a small, independent, local company. I don't have to make the same margins as those folks do to pay for all that. So I want to be able to give that veteran an amazing experience and make sure that they're taken care of at a very, very, very low price. So I don't want to jeopardize, hey, you're the cheapest person in the world at doing this stuff and the service is going to be terrible, because oftentimes you get what you pay for, right? But we're looking at this combination of experts at doing VA loans and doing them at a cheaper cost than some of the big national companies, and they can come see us face to face, Joe.
That's fantastic. So let's remind folks right now, for the VA loans, the appraisal will be taken care of.
The appraisal will be taken care of by us.
All right. And how do they reach you directly for the VA programs?
They can reach us at 508-332-4171. That's a call or text number. Or you can reach us at veteranshomeloans.com. That is our website specifically for the vets.
All right, Wes. Thanks for joining us for today's edition of Handle and Change.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, folks, and thank you for joining us for Handle and Change from the Cantiani Insurance Studios. And join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life. Visit us at handlingchange.info. You can find Wes on Facebook at Prestige Home Mortgage or email at woliver@prestigemortgage.com. And you can always call 508-366-4006. For Wes, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the final segment of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on this Sunday morning here on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. Thank you for joining us. And prior to the break, we were talking about Virginia's situation, and that is the Second Amendment issue that the very narrow margin controlled Democratic legislature and Democratic governor are taking some very overt actions against Second Amendment rights and Second Amendment advocates. So they're bracing for this giant gun rights rally tomorrow in Virginia. And there has been some militias kind of organizing to attend this. Christian Yingling, who is head of the Pennsylvania Lightfoot Militia and the leader of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville in 2017, he'll be rolling in. He's organized a convoy into the rally. Thousands will join them for the rally Monday, Capitol Square, to protest plans by the new Democratic majority in the General Assembly to pass gun controls law. State and federal officials were preparing for a volatile mix of weapons, passions, and anti-government fervor. Central Richmond was braced for road closures and extensive police presence. That was before President Trump decided to weigh in, on Friday on Twitter, and he did tweet, "Your Second Amendment is under very serious attack in the great Commonwealth of Virginia." That's what happens when you vote Democrats. They will take your guns away. Republicans will win Virginia in 2020. Thank you, Dems. I was talking with Ken prior to the break, and Don was in the queue waiting. So, Don, I asked him Cam, to patch you into the phone call. So I have both Ken and Don. And Don, I know this is very passionate to you, the Second Amendment rights. And you've been watching what's going on in Virginia. And let me ask you if you know what the general consensus is among the law enforcement in Virginia, and whether or not the sheriff's department plays a law enforcement role in Virginia, or is it more like Massachusetts?
Wow. Before I get to that, let me quickly remind folks that in 1956, Martin Luther King was living in Alabama peacefully in his home when his house exploded. The Democrat KKK tried to kill him. The next day, he went down to the Democrat sheriff to ask to buy a gun license. Mm-hmm. Well, the Democrat didn't want to sell Martin Luther King a gun license because he was a Negro, plus he was a Republican. So in honor of Martin Luther King, whose birthday we celebrate tomorrow, let us all remember that Martin Luther King was denied a gun license by the Democrats when they tried to kill him in his house in 1956.
And that Martin Luther King was a Republican.
Was a Republican, as was Martin Luther King's father.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, let's never forget that the Democrats refused to sell a man who tried to be killed by Democrats a gun license because he was a Republican.
And black.
But go ahead.
And black.
And black, yeah. This is how Democrats treat minorities. But we all must remember that there is no such thing as a ban of firearm ownership for lawful citizens. Remember, all rights are absolute up until the point that you use that right to violate the rights of another person. So in other words, they are without concern until you start depriving another person of their rights. Now you're committing a crime because you cannot use a right to violate the rights of another person. But I don't know what the police and law enforcement is going to do. I mean, look here in Massachusetts, law enforcement, they're more than willing to deny you your right to carry a firearm by refusing to sell you a gun license. They do this every day. But I'm sure the law enforcement in Virginia, they're in a quandary. They don't know what to do. They want to, quote, obey the law, but they're obligated not to obey unconstitutional laws. So if a law is enacted to violate the basic fundamental rights of a citizen, that law is patently unconstitutional and should never have been passed in the first place, Joe. So this is basically the problem that law enforcement in Virginia is going to have to face tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to tell you, the Washington Post put an article out just within the last 24 hours about this, talking about what they're planning to do, because this has been tradition, by the way. In Virginia, they've done this Second Amendment rally on Martin Luther King Monday for years. This isn't just this year, but it's getting the attention that it's getting is because of the recent Democratic Assembly getting controlled by the Democrats, and then, of course, Northam coming in, a Democratic governor who was one of his things that he had to say was he'll impose these gun laws and confiscate. So if anybody thinks for a moment that the Democrats are not coming for your gun, you're clueless. I mean, look at Francis O'Rourke. I mean, he was out of the presidential race. I don't know if it was coincidence or what, but within hours of saying, yeah, we're going to come, and we'll even come door to door to collect your guns. And
well, look at Swalwell, the Democrat Republican out of California, said, well, we have nuclear bombs. Democrats are going to use nuclear bombs on gun owners?
On American soil, on American citizens.
Is that the insanity of the Democrat Party? Remember when Democrats back in the 1820s, 30s, and 40s, I mean, they stole the land from the five civilized tribes. We went to war against Mexico, and that land theft from the Indians in Mexico was to expand slavery. But even if you were a freed slave, if you were a Negro in Democrat states, you couldn't own a gun. Has everybody become so stupid they can't see that? I mean, this is just incredulous. I mean, the Civil War broke out. Lincoln told the southern states, you can keep your Negro slaves, but just pay your damn taxes. And the Democrats said, you know where you can stick your taxes, Jack. We're not going to pay you. And that was it. That's why they fired upon the customs house there at Fort, whatchamacallit down in Charleston Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Fort, no, not McHenry, but the other fort.
Sumter.
But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, this is what people don't understand. And I mean, you were talking about Muslims. Let me get here quickly. Over in the town of Sharon, they arrested an Egyptian Muslim who worked for Raytheon, who was stealing sensitive data and other diagrams and such from Raytheon regarding missiles. And in Stoughton, from Stoughton High School, we had a Muslim graduate, Abra Dubraham, who actually was the ISIS tech guy and flew overseas to fight with ISIS against the American people. Muslims do not put the Constitution first because their religion is unconstitutional.
Exactly, Joe. And this is, and I've said this over and over again, and I know that we have a different changing audience, but I also know that a lot of you are always here and listening. But I've said this over and over again, guys. Muslims cannot be a good Muslim and cannot take the oath that you're required to take.
They cannot obey two masters.
Exactly. You cannot have two masters in this case, and the oath, both oaths contradict each other as to what you're swearing your allegiance to. So they cannot coexist because either they're a very bad Muslim or they're lying about their American oath. One of the two.
Yeah, Joe.
Or a very bad American, yeah.
Ken, go ahead, Ken.
I think we have to make a distinction between Islamists.
Yes.
And probably most Muslims now don't believe in many of the things that you're describing, where there's a hierarchy of what's more important.
Yeah.
Islamists clearly are carrying things out as you're describing, whereas there are those who became Muslim.
And I agree, Ken. You're right 100%. Because there is, just to be Muslim doesn't mean you're Islamist. And
every Islamist starts out as a Muslim.
Exactly. Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm sorry, if there's a Muslim alive, they can become an Islamist. End of statement, Ken. I mean, you cannot trust any Muslim, no matter how meek and mild they are. Go ahead.
I think you have to be careful there in that we're talking, I think, over 1 billion people who are within the faith. And I think there's wide variations as to what those that are described.
True enough, Ken. But if you get enough Islamists, remember in Germany, only about 7% of Germany were Nazis, yet they controlled the entire country. If you get 10, 15, 20% of, quote, Islamists, the other Muslims will cave and they will not be your friend anymore.
When the numbers get too large, I can't.
Exactly.
But I want just a quick question. Yeah. Getting back to, I didn't realize that this event tomorrow has been held many years in the past.
Yeah, this is actually traditionally this day, Martin Luther King Day, has been because kids are out of school and everything. It has been a rally day where people go and they go to the Capitol and they lobbyist their representatives for whatever their causes are. So this isn't just this. This has happened before, and the Second Amendment has been lobbied on MLK in the past. The only thing that changed all this time, Ken, and Dawn, I'm sure you know this, is the threats from Northam and Democrats saying, we're coming after your guns now. So it's raised the bar here that they're saying, oh no. So they've organized a little more and said, we're coming to protest and to lobby against that. So the hoopla is focused on promises by Northam to enact sweeping gun control, including limiting handgun purchase to 1 per month, banning military-style weapons and silencers, allowing localities to ban guns in public spaces, and enacting a red flag law so authorities can temporarily seize weapons from someone deemed a threat, which, of course, we've discussed this in the past. Who the hell is making that decision that you're a threat? And what is the due process for that?
So here's the
you're exactly right, Joe. And one quickie I want to point out. Do you know that it's lawful for an American to carry a firearm into any federal building? And that's according to Title 18, I believe it's Section 926. So long as you are taking that firearm in that federal building for lawful purposes, they cannot take it away from you. And I've brought this to the attention of a number of attorneys, and they were shocked when I showed them the actual black and white law. So for the governor to be able to exceed what the federal government has already deemed a right, I don't understand how he can do that. Is he just making this law up out of his ass, or is he just a typical Democrat? Again, Joe, go ahead.
It's all those things, Don.
Yeah, it is all those things.
I think what we have to be careful about is if there's an organization that's been doing this regularly for a number of years, they have to make sure that if they're bringing on new people to join their cause tomorrow, they have to make sure of those people. So, for instance, when the Washington Post, whoever, talking about the Unite the Right group, you got to make sure to keep them out because they were part of what made the mess in Charlottesville. And the president was right. There were 4 different groups. There were people on the left and the right, and the good and the bad on both the left and right. So those who have a pure intent and have been there for quite some time, they need to gather together. And what I would suggest is, let's say there's 100 people, all of the white men in the middle, all of the non-white men on the outer circle, arm to arm, and stick together as a group. And how do you lose that situation if anything bad should happen?
Yeah. By the way, it is, let me pull this up. It's 110, I think, is the more than 110 counties, cities, and towns around the state have passed some type of resolution in support of gun rights. Many of them Second Amendment sanctuary proclamations in which local officials pledge not to enforce laws they see as unconstitutional. So it's actually higher than the original 92 that we thought, 110 counties and towns.
The president's right. The direction that this is headed, he'll win the state come November.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Republicans are going to sweep the state because they've way crossed the line, Northam and his partners who think now, oh, I have a slight majority, we're going to really do what we want to do. Yeah, right. You're going to get smacked in the head by 2x4 come Election Day, November 2nd.
No, you're exactly right, Ken and Joe. Once you give the Democrats a bit of a lead or a bit of position of authority, the mask comes off and you see exactly what they are. I mean, even here in Massachusetts, we want to bring more refugees in. Well, wait a second. If we're lacking population, why don't we cut back on abortions? Oh, no, the Democrats say, we have to take money away from you to fund these abortions, and at the same time we're funding abortions for Americans, or we're taking your money away from taxpayers to bring in illegal aliens because we're lacking population. And I'm saying, isn't that kind of a stupid argument? Why don't you let married couples keep more of what they earn so they can raise their children, and we won't need refugees to replace the population?
Don, something, because again in my notes I didn't get to it yet, but on the abortion front, out of Florida, I just saw an article where out of Florida, 71,740 abortions took place in Florida. 0.001% were due to incest. 0.065% to protect the mother's life. 0.085% due to rape, and 0.666% fetal abnormalities. And 98.6% were elective procedures for social or economic reasons, because I want to, basically.
Birth control, yeah, they're using it as birth control. They're using taxpayers' money for birth control, and they're using taxpayers' money to fill those holes that are committed by abortions to bring in illegals. And for the Democrats, that's fine, because they don't want Americans. They want these third, fourth, and fifth world country people with IQs of 60 that they can mold into true Democrats.
And you know, they're trying to present Pete Buttigieg as this moderate, right? And the mainstream media is trying to paint him as a moderate. But Pete believes that life begins at first breath. So he's saying right up until you remove the child from the womb and it takes a breath, it's abortable. Can you imagine
Governor
that?
Northam thinks it goes beyond that.
Right, that you take you can if the baby, you can deliver a baby alive, and then have a discussion whether or not you're going to terminate its life.
Yeah, well, it's funny, from ancient times, guys, a woman who was pregnant, the child was considered alive until it was born dead, but it was considered alive if so long as it wasn't a stillbirth. So go figure that one out, huh?
Wow. All right, gentlemen. Well, go ahead, Ken.
The former California senator back in the 90s, I forget her name, she's short, literally said that at the Senate floor that why they can be killed right up until the point they go home. So this is argued for ridiculously for more than 25 years.
It's absolutely disgusting, folks.
It takes a Democrat, and quickly, last word, Richard was a little bit wrong. The American dollar actually has the 1913-14 value of less than a penny. The inflation rate has been over 1,400%.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Don. Right. With the irony is it literally costs more money to make the dollar than it's worth. You see what I'm saying? It costs more money to make a quarter, to make a dollar bill, than it costs. It costs more than the dollar bill is worth when you get down to it. All right. Lieutenant, anything else you want to comment before I move along?
It was a joy.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant. You enjoy the rest of your weekend. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. The morning has kind of flown by pretty quick. Let's go to the phones. Gene. Good morning, dear. You're always up early on a Sunday, I'm sure.
Joe, I'm glad I was today. I'm glad I was today, Joe.
Awesome.
It is unbelievable. You have covered everything, and you've covered, and Ken, Dawn, thank you. Okay, because once again, more information, more reality checks for what's going on, and I want it with it. This was just talked about, so let's hit this first, if you don't mind. I have three things major.
Oh, see, now I like that, Gene. When you call and you have your 3 points ready to go, and then we can knock them through. Point one, what do you want to touch on?
Well, Joe, you know I'm an old fart now, so this is a miracle day, so thank you, God. How can I hear praise Jesus, everybody? Okay, first one, abortion is murder. Okay, it's murder.
Mm-hmm.
From the time that baby is conceived, okay, it is life. It is nothing short of life, and it is murder. Okay, you want to get that word in? Murder. Okay, so I'm going to stand up for the babies that nobody wants to, including pastors today. I do know several pastors that can't be bought. There's a few left, but it's getting fewer. Okay, so now, that's number one. Ken, as far as Muslims go, again, we all should be witnessing to them. Dawn, you are absolutely right. This is what can happen. They will cave. The Christians caved, Ken, okay, for standing up for what's right in the Word of God. They don't want to do it. They want to play with the world for the 501c. I've had 2 pastors admit it. That is what's going on today. Ken, are you witnessing to Muslims? Because you know how we get their hearts. We have to do both. We have to challenge, and nobody loves them enough to do it, Ken. That's the problem. Yes, they may take my head. Yes, they may. I have had people tell me that they won't witness to them. I witness to them. Jesus loves you, Muslims. Don't fry in hell. Okay. Number 3. This Seth Rich and Lee, thank you. Okay? He was murdered. They murder you now. Do you understand that? That's why nobody wants to speak out. They will shoot me in the head or poison me or whatever they're going to do. All I ask, all right, the one thing I do ask, Joe, and I know this, you know it, if you want to kill me, look me in the eye for the American Constitution and Jesus Christ. That's all. I'll let you kill me. I will stand there for Jesus. Why won't you stand there and look me in the eye?
Okay.
That's all I ask, Ken.
Gene, great job. Let me just go back to a couple things. First of all, as far as abortion goes, yes, it is murder. Look, my point on this is that there are precautions you can take. There's birth control that's in place. I understand that and the need for that. However, when you're talking about these late-term abortions and you're talking about snapping the neck and ripping part of fetus that would have been viable outside of the womb, I cannot at all wrap my head around that you accept that as okay, that you accept that as a moral, legal process. Never mind up until the day of the birth, and then, God forbid, the child being born alive and breathing, and the Jamok is saying, well, then we have a discussion with the mother about whether or not we keep the child. Look, I don't know if any of you, listening to us talk about this right now, please go Google it. You can go find very detailed video and medical explanations as to abortions. As a matter of fact, if you go to the Joe Mangi Facebook page, I have put up there before and on our blog site exactly what happens when this goes on. Then you add on top of that I think the reprehensible aspect of Planned Parenthood selling the parts of aborted fetuses, that they've turned it into a business, is just unbelievably disgusting. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
on the abortion issue there. Now, as far as the Muslims go, Gene, am I understanding what you're saying is that these jihadists and these Islamics who are looking to turn our country over to Sharia law and over to the teachings of Allah and following their way of life, That all they need is a hug and a little love from a Christian?
Joe, I'm saying you're going to have to tell them the truth, okay?
All right, and when you say that, are you telling them the truth that the whole 73 virgins is a joke and the only true God is Jesus? And is that what you're saying?
Okay, Joe, the only true God is Jesus Christ. There is a book out. And what is the woman that you're talking about, by the way?
Okay, yeah, Chrie Berens, Berens. Chrie Berens is fantastic. And she's an Egyptian woman, and she has written a book. She's sending me the book. I went over, I don't know if you caught me, I shared some of our correspondence because she came straight out and told me, look, you have problems in Massachusetts. The Brotherhood has infiltrated your universities, and we're going to go up to the top of the hour, Cam, all right? So I got a break because we're at 59. Gene, I'm out of time. I'm out of time, folks. Sorry about it. Thank you for joining us for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. You can catch the audio of this on SoundCloud. You can also rewatch it on our Facebook page. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. Have a fantastic time. I'm headed out to brunch this morning. Enjoy. Joe out.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
The following is a paid program.
Snow, then cold. Infant executed? I'm Christopher Cruz. Bitter cold has now replaced a huge and powerful storm that dumped heavy snow and lots of sleet from the plains to the Midwest and into the Northeast over the past 2 days. Blowing snow in North and South Dakota, Minnesota, and Iowa made it almost impossible to see in some areas, and parts of highways in the Dakotas and Wyoming were closed. National Weather Service meteorologist Bob Oravec.
The blizzard conditions are concentrated across eastern portions of North Dakota and eastern portions of South Dakota, western portions of Minnesota, and northern portions of Iowa, where we do have strong winds gusting as high as 50 to 60 miles per hour, combined with some snow and blowing snow and some very cold temperatures.
There's a disturbing story out of Afghanistan today. Officials there say the Taliban has executed 6 members of the same family, including an infant girl. It happened in a remote village in the country's north. The Taliban deny any involvement in the attack. They say it was triggered by a personal dispute. But local Afghan officials said today the Taliban accused the family of working in prostitution, sentenced them to death yesterday, then stormed their home and began shooting. Britain's Prince Harry and his wife Meghan will no longer be referred to as their Royal Highnesses. The couple has stepped down as senior royals, says correspondent Anna Stewart in London.
Relinquishing the title, HRH will allow the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to live more independently.